over at DIYDanielle.com, and today I'm here to talk to you about the DumaWall tub and shower wall kit. These are waterproof tiles that pretty much stick onto your wall. They can be cut with a utility knife, which makes them super easy to use for a DIYer. Now, I want to say thank you first to our sponsors, the DIY Decor Store, where you can purchase this kit. The kit comes with pretty much everything you need. You're going to need a utility knife as well, because that allows you to cut the tiles. Super easy. They glue on. The kit even comes with some glue, and it comes with caulking. So you're pretty well set to get started. So make sure to visit their link. Having sponsors is what keeps my channel running. So I really appreciate it when you guys give them a visit. I'm going to talk a little bit about these tiles, and then we'll get on to the actual tutorial. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about these before we get started, because you're going to want some basic information to work with. Each piece, these are scraps, each piece has a large flange on one short side and a large flange on one long side and a short one on the opposite sides. So the large flange and the small flange fit together. And the way they do this, if you look down here, you can see there's a little gap there. That allows the small flange, which is here, to snugly fit into it. So it's actually, do you see how it fits there? That helps keep water from getting back to your wall. To additionally waterproof, you're also adding caulking along that large flange before you insert the small flange. Again, this is such a cool technology to keep water, to waterproof the tiles. So let's get started.
Planning your configuration is really important. You've got 4 options between horizontal, stacked versus subway versus vertical. We chose to do vertical subway, which gets installed left to right and by columns. The difference would be with horizontal subway, you're actually installing the first row, then the second row, then the third row, and you're working from right to left. And this is due to the flange placement. Now, I'm going to get into here how to install it next. Here's a better image of what I meant by the flanges. So if you're working vertically, your large flange is on the right. If you're working horizontally, your large flange is on the left, so you have to work in different directions. Your first step is to cut your corner trim pieces to the height that you want your wall to go to. In our case, we were measuring and cutting a size that went from the top of our tub all the way to our ceiling. Okay, go ahead and apply adhesive to your corner trim once it's cut to the right size, and just pop it right in those corners, making sure that the deepest part of your corner trim is facing the long wall. The first wall that we completed was our long wall, and this is just a good picture of what it looked like when it was finished. And I'm going to get into the step-by-step here. In order to have the subway look, you're going to want to cut one of these panels in half to start out. So mark your line for the halfway point, score it with your utility knife, and then it kind of just snaps in half. All of the very bottom panels in your columns need to sit tightly against the tub. So you're cutting off the bottom flange. That can be cut off with a utility knife very easily. Or if you're using a subway look, you can make sure that you use the pieces from the half cut that have no flange on them. When you're installing these, it's important to cut any pieces that you need to cut. In this case, we cut a little bit of edge off the left side of these, and it's important to just dry fit them. That means you don't glue them on yet, you don't add your silicone caulk yet. You just want to get an idea and if they're the right size. Your first step is to apply your silicone caulk into the gaps of your trim where you're going to be installing the panel or your first panel. This keeps water from seeping through. Here we are just applying our adhesive to the back of the tiles. This allows it to stick onto the wall. It's really important to make sure your tiles are level in both directions, particularly that first set of tiles that you put in. Add silicone caulk along your large flange before you add your second tile above it. This is just a really quick sped up video of us installing the first 2 or 3 columns along our long wall. We did the long wall after we did the wall with our plumbing fixtures, and it just shows you just the quick and easy process for installing these. Okay, so this is how we installed the very top panel, and because we were going up against the ceiling, we had to be very careful about the size of our cut. You place it in and you kind of scooch it to the left and down. Okay, so this is the last column on the long wall, and as you can see, we have our glue placed on the wall for this last column, and we spritz it with a little water, which gives us it makes it a little slippery when you put your panel on. And of course, we've already added our caulk into the gap in the corner trim. We're going to tuck it into the corner trim, and this is just slightly shorter than the whole width. So you tuck it into the corner trim, and then you kind of slide it back into place on the left and then down. And the trim should cover the width, but still give you a little bit of wiggle room.
We finished our big long side, so now we're going to work on the 2 short sides. Now, the one thing to remember is that you're working in different directions for each one. You are working on my right side wall, I'm going to be working from the corner out, and on my other short wall, I'm going to be working from the outside into the corner. And that's just because of where the flanges are, the large flanges. The other thing to remember is that you've got your trim here. So when you apply your very last panel here, you're not going to put glue on the very edge of it, like about this much in. So that way you can slide it behind that last panel when you adhere this in place. So here we are, we're just planning it out. Make sure you center this piece first and then get good measurements so you can figure out what size you need on the inside corner, because that goes in first.
Okay, for cutting the sections with the faucet, where the faucet will go, first I took my panel and I planned for that panel to be the center panel on the wall with the faucet. Then I measured where the middle of the faucet would be and made my markings on my panel. And there's 2 on this one panel, and I'll have to do another one for up above for the shower head. But I'm using spade bits that are the size that I needed. You want the smallest size that will fit the, that'll allow the faucet to come through the pipe to come through the hole. And make sure you have a piece of scrap wood behind this to keep it from blowing out the back of your tile. This is what the panel looked like once it was dry fit on. And as you can see, everything fits really snugly and it is perfectly centered in that large tile. When you get to your last panel on the side, cut a piece of J-trim to the height of your tiles when the column is fully installed, and apply glue to the back, apply caulking inside the gap, and slide it behind your panels. And this should stick right in place. And really the last thing to do to wrap this up is to go ahead and caulk around all of the gaps where the tiles meet the tub, where the tiles meet the ceiling, and along the sides if you didn't use trim. So that just covers up any spaces where water could seep through. And here's the final project. I'm going to give you 2 more short video clips just to show you what it looks like to when it's cut with a circular saw versus using a utility knife. But otherwise, this is the project, and it is really that simple. It's a matter of doing some good planning, and yeah. So check out the blog post, which is a little bit more detailed on DIYDanielle.com, and stay tuned for info on cutting. This is a quick demo of what it looks like to score the tiles with a utility knife and then snap them in half. Sometimes you have to go over it quite a bit just to get a really good deep score mark, but then it just snaps right off nice and easy. Like that. As a comparison, here is how we cut the panels using a circular saw, which we found we didn't prefer, and it was a little harder to do indoors.